The cargo bay smelled like burnt metal and recycled air. Kevin Walsh checked his inventory tablet for the third time that morning. The numbers still looked bad. 2 contracts canceled, 1 delayed, and his main client threatening to find someone cheaper. Welcome to life as a small-time human merchant on Talon Station. Kevin walked through the busy marketplace. Aliens of every shape moved around him. Some had 4 arms. Others floated on cushions of air. A few looked almost human, but their eyes gave them away. Too large. Too many colors. The station was always crowded during morning shift. Merchants shouted about their goods. Cargo loaders rumbled past. The air tasted like 1,000 different worlds all mixed together. Kevin had been here for 2 years now, and he still wasn't used to it. Near the loading docks, Kevin noticed a crowd forming. Aliens pointed and laughed at something. Kevin frowned. He hated crowds like that. Nothing good ever came from them. He pushed through the gathering. In the center sat a thin alien woman. Her skin was pale blue and covered in patterns like tree bark. She wore torn clothes that might have been nice once. Now they were just rags. She was Venlari. Kevin recognized the species from his trading guides. Their homeworld was dying. Something about the sun expanding or the atmosphere failing. The details varied depending on who told the story. What mattered was that Venlari were scattered across the galaxy now, desperate and poor. Please, the woman said in broken common tongue. I work hard. Just need food. Place to sleep. A large merchant with tentacles for arms laughed. Venlari? They're useless. Their whole species is finished. Why would anyone waste resources? The woman lowered her head. She didn't argue. That bothered Kevin more than anything else. She believed what the tentacled merchant said. Kevin stepped forward. What kind of work can you do? The crowd went quiet. Several aliens stared at him like he'd grown a second head. The Venlari woman looked up. Her eyes were gold with vertical pupils. They reminded Kevin of a cat's eyes, but sadder. Much sadder. Anything human, sir. I lift cargo. I clean. I organize. I read 5 languages. I calculate numbers. Anything you need. You speak 5 languages? Kevin raised an eyebrow. 6, human, sir. Common tongue not my first. A smaller alien near Kevin's elbow chittered something that his translator rendered as, don't waste your time, human. Venlari are charity cases. She'll eat your food and give you nothing useful. Kevin looked at the woman again. She was too thin. Her hands shook slightly. The shaking wasn't from cold. The station kept a steady temperature. No, this was the shaking that came from not eating enough for too long. When was the last time she had a real meal? Stand up, Kevin said. The woman struggled to her feet. She swayed a little but stayed upright. Kevin could see her ribs through the torn fabric of her shirt. His stomach twisted. What's your name? Lyra, human, sir. Lyra of the Western Valleys. She added the last part quietly, like it didn't matter anymore. Like her home was too far away to count. Kevin made a decision he knew his accountant AI would complain about. Lyra, before we talk about work, you need medical attention. Lyra's eyes went wide. Fear flashed across her face. No, human, sir. Medical costs too much. I work first. Prove my worth. Then maybe. That's not how this works. Kevin pulled out his comm device. I'm calling a clinic. You get checked out, get some food, then we talk about employment. The crowd murmured. The tentacled merchant laughed again. Stupid human. She'll run the moment you pay for treatment. You'll never see her again. Kevin ignored him. He contacted the station's medical center and arranged for a basic health scan and meal. The cost made him wince, but he'd spent more on bad cargo before. Lyra stared at him like he was speaking a language her translator couldn't handle. I don't understand, human, sir. Why you help before I work? Because you're about to fall over. Kevin gestured toward the medical center across the plaza. Come on. Food first, questions later. Lyra followed him slowly. She kept glancing back like she expected him to change his mind. Or like she expected the crowd to stop them. Neither happened. The crowd dispersed, still muttering about foolish humans and worthless Venlari. Kevin heard it all. He'd heard worse before. As they walked, Lyra spoke quietly. Other humans not like you. Last human I ask, he laughed. Say Venlari too weak, too broken. Why you different? Kevin thought about that. He thought about Earth's history. About all the times humans had been counted out, written off, left for dead. About how humans survived anyway. Where I come from, Kevin said, we learned something important. When someone's down, you don't step on them. You help them up. Maybe they help you later. Maybe they don't. But you help anyway because that's what decent people do. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something in her own language. Her translator didn't catch it. What was that? Kevin asked. Old Venlari saying human sir. It means, kindness from strangers is the most dangerous gift. Makes you hope. Hope can hurt. Kevin felt something twist in his chest. What kind of life had this woman lived where kindness was dangerous? They reached the medical center. The building was clean and white, with the universal medical symbol glowing above the door. The receptionist was an insectoid alien with compound eyes that reflected light in strange patterns. The receptionist looked at Lyra with obvious distaste. Kevin had seen that look before. It was the look people gave to things they considered garbage. We need a health scan and a meal for my associate here, Kevin said firmly. Your associate? The receptionist translator added a skeptical tone. That's right. Bill it to my account. Kevin Walsh, merchant license number 47821. The receptionist's antennae twitched. The compound eyes shifted to Kevin, then back to Lyra. Very well. Though I should warn you, Venlari typically require expensive supplements. Their biology is quite delicate after extended malnutrition. Then get her whatever she needs. Lyra grabbed Kevin's sleeve. Her grip was weak but urgent. Her fingers were ice cold. Human sir, please. This too much. I cannot repay. I have nothing. Kevin gently removed her hand from his sleeve. You don't repay kindness. You pass it forward. Now go get checked out. I'll wait here. Lyra was led into the back by a medical assistant. She looked over her shoulder at Kevin 3 times before disappearing through the door. Each time, her expression said the same thing. She expected him to be gone when she came back out. Kevin sat in the waiting area. The chairs were designed for multiple body types, which meant they were uncomfortable for everyone. He pulled out his tablet and looked at his finances again. The numbers still looked bad. Adding an employee would make them worse. Adding an employee who needed medical care and a week of recovery would make them terrible. But something his father used to say came back to him. His dad had run a small construction business back on Earth. Never got rich, but he kept his crew fed through 3 recessions. Son, the old man used to say, the right thing and the profitable thing aren't always the same. But in the long run, doing right tends to pay off in ways you can't predict. Kevin hoped the old man was right about that. An hour later, Lyra emerged. She looked steadier on her feet. Someone had given her a clean medical gown to replace her torn clothes. Her face had more color now. They must have given her something to eat. The doctor approached Kevin. He was a 4-armed mammalian alien with soft gray fur. Your Venlari friend has severe malnutrition, vitamin deficiencies, and early signs of organ stress. Nothing permanent yet, but she needs regular meals, supplements, and at least a week of rest before any physical labor. What about mental work? Organization, calculations, that sort of thing? The doctor consulted his tablet. Her brain scans show no cognitive impairment. Actually, quite sharp for someone in her condition. But even mental work requires energy. She needs food and rest first. Kevin nodded. Understood. Send me the supplement requirements and dietary recommendations. After the doctor left, Kevin turned to Lyra. The Venlari woman stood very still, like she was afraid to move. Afraid to make a sound. Okay, Kevin said. Here's what's going to happen. I have a spare room in my quarters. Small but private. You're going to stay there for a week and recover. After that, if you still want to work, we'll discuss employment terms. Lyra's gold eyes filled with tears. She blinked them away quickly. Human sir, I don't understand your customs. In rest of galaxy, labor comes first. Especially for Venlari. We prove worth, then maybe receive care. You do backwards. Not backwards, Kevin said. Just different. Kevin's quarters were nothing special. 2 rooms in the residential section of Talon Station. The main room had a small kitchen, a desk, and a couch that had seen better days. The second room was storage space he'd converted into a bedroom for himself. The spare room was barely big enough for a bed and a locker. But it was clean. It was safe. And it was more than Lyra had seen in months. She stood in the doorway of the spare room, staring at the bed like it might disappear. Kevin had put fresh sheets on it that morning. White and clean. The pillow was standard station issue, but soft enough. This is for me? Lyra asked. Her voice was small. That's right. Private space. No one comes in without your permission. Not even me. Lyra turned to face him. Her gold eyes were wet again. Human sir, I don't deserve this. I haven't worked yet. I haven't earned. Stop. Kevin held up his hand. We need to talk about how this is going to work. Sit down. They sat at the small table in the main room. Kevin made tea. It was earth tea, nothing fancy. Just black tea with a little sugar. He'd learned that most species could drink it without problems. Lyra held the cup in both hands. She stared at the steam rising from it. Here's the deal, Kevin said. You rest for 1 week. You eat regular meals. You take the supplements the doctor prescribed. After that week we talk about employment. What kind of employment? Lyra asked carefully. I need help with logistics. Organizing shipments, tracking inventory, managing schedules. You said you can read 6 languages and do calculations. That's exactly what I need. And payment. Standard station wage for logistics work. That's 15 credits per day plus room and board. Medical coverage included. Lyra nearly dropped her tea. 15 credits? Per day. That's the standard rate. What? Is that not enough? Human sir, most Venlari work for 3 credits per week. If they're lucky. Many work just for food. Kevin felt his jaw tighten. That's not employment. That's slavery. It's survival, Lyra said quietly. When your species is dying, you take what you can get. The galaxy knows we're desperate. They use it against us. She set down her tea and looked at her hands. The bark-like patterns on her blue skin were beautiful in their own way. Kevin wondered what her homeworld had looked like before it started dying. Tell me what happened, Kevin said. To your world. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was flat, distant, like she was reading from a report. Our sun changed. Scientists say it expanded too fast. Something about stellar physics we didn't understand in time. The outer planets burned first. Then the heat came for us. She traced a pattern on the table with one finger. We had maybe 50 years of warning. We tried to evacuate. Built colony ships. Asked for help from the galactic community. Some species helped. Most didn't. They said resources were limited. They said we should have seen it coming sooner. They said a lot of things that meant no. Kevin stayed quiet. Let her talk. We got maybe 30% of our population off-world before the heat made the surface unlivable. 12 billion people left behind. 12 billion who died slowly as the world baked. Lyra's voice cracked on the last word. She took a breath and continued. Those of us who escaped scattered. We went wherever we could find space. Refugee camps. Charity stations. Any place that would take us. But charity runs out. Always runs out. So we work. Whatever work we can find. Whatever conditions they offer. Even if those conditions are terrible? Kevin asked. Especially then. Because terrible work is better than starving. Degrading work is better than dying. The galaxy knows this. So they offer us scraps and call it generous. She looked up at Kevin. Her gold eyes were hard now. Angry but in a tired way. Like she'd been angry for so long that the fire had burned down to embers. You ask me why I don't believe your offer. Why I think this is trick. Because the galaxy taught me that kindness is a lie. That anyone offering help wants something in return. Usually something worth more than what they give. Kevin took a sip of his tea. It had gone lukewarm while she talked. I understand why you think that, he said. But here's what you need to know about humans. We're stubborn. Especially about certain things. What things? Dignity. Fair treatment. The idea that every person has value just because they exist. Not because they're useful. Not because they're strong. Just because they're a person. Lyra shook her head. That's not how galaxy works. Maybe not. But it's how humans work. Kevin leaned forward. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not doing this purely out of kindness. I do need help with my business. You have skills I need. But here's the thing, I won't use those skills by making you desperate. I won't exploit you because you're vulnerable. Why not? Others do. Because I come from a species that's been exploited before. We remember what that feels like. We decided we didn't like it. So we made rules. Fair wages. Safe working conditions. Basic dignity. These aren't suggestions for humans. They're requirements. Lyra stared at him. Even for aliens? Even for Venlari? Even for anyone. If you work for me, you get treated the same as I'd treat any human worker. Same pay. Same respect. Same rights. But I'm not human. Doesn't matter. The principles don't change based on what species you are. Lyra picked up her tea again. Her hands weren't shaking anymore, but she still looked uncertain. Like she was waiting for the catch. The hidden cost. What if I can't do the work? She asked. What if I'm not good enough? Then we'll figure out different work. or I'll help you find a position somewhere else. But Lyra, listen to me. I'm not going to throw you back on the street. That's not how this works. You say that now. But when I cost you money, you won't cost me money. You'll make me money. Because organized logistics means better efficiency. Better efficiency means more profit. This is good business, not charity. And if I make mistakes? Everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. We fix them and move on. Lyra set down her tea. She folded her hands in her lap. Kevin could see her thinking, processing, trying to find the trap in his words. You really mean this, she said finally. It wasn't quite a question. Yes. Why? Kevin thought about how to answer that. He thought about his father and the construction crew. He thought about Earth's history. All the times humans had been broken and had to rebuild. All the times they'd needed help and sometimes got it, sometimes didn't. Because someone helped my grandfather once, Kevin said. During the water wars on Earth. He was a refugee too. Ran from the drought zones with nothing but the clothes on his back. A stranger gave him work. Fair work, fair pay. That stranger saved his life. My grandfather never forgot it. He taught my father. My father taught me. Help people when you can. Treat them fair. Don't exploit people just because you have the power to do it. That was human helping human, Lyra pointed out. So, the principle is the same. You're a person. You deserve to be treated like a person. Not like garbage. Not like a tool. Like a person with dignity and rights. Lyra was crying now. Silent tears running down her blue cheeks. She didn't try to hide them this time. I want to believe you, she whispered. But I'm so tired of being disappointed. Kevin stood up and went to the kitchen. He came back with a box. Inside was a data pad still in its wrapper. This is yours, he said. Has my business files on it. Inventory lists, client contacts, shipping schedules. Spend this week looking through it. Learn the system. When you're ready, we'll start work. Lyra took the data pad with shaking hands. You trust me with this? Your business information? Of course. You're going to be my logistics coordinator. You need access to everything. But what if I steal it? Sell it to competitors? Kevin smiled. You won't. How do you know? Because you're not a thief. You're a person who's been dealt a bad hand and is trying to survive with dignity. There's a difference. Lyra held the data pad to her chest. She looked at Kevin with something new in her eyes. Not quite trust yet. But maybe the beginning of hope. I'll work hard, she said. I promise. I'll make this worth your investment. I know you will. Now finish your tea and get some rest. Doctor's orders. 3 weeks later, Kevin's cargo bay looked completely different. Everything was organized by destination, clearly labeled, and tracked in a digital system that actually worked. Lyra had spent her first week recovering, her second week learning the business, and her third week reorganizing everything Kevin had been doing wrong for 2 years. You had shipments to the same destination on 3 different cargo pallets, Lyra said, showing Kevin her tablet. Costs 3 times the transport fees. I consolidated. Saved 40 credits per shipment. Kevin looked at the numbers. She was right. He'd been wasting money for months and hadn't even noticed. Good catch, he said. Lyra's face brightened. She still looked surprised every time he praised her work. Like she expected him to find fault instead. Also, she continued, your supplier on Deck 7 is overcharging you for power cells. I found same quality cells on Deck 4 for 30% less. I took liberty of switching vendors. Hope that was okay. More than okay. That's exactly what I hired you for. Lyra smiled. It was still a rare thing, her smile. But it was happening more often now. She gained weight. Her hands didn't shake anymore. The bark patterns on her blue skin looked healthier, more vibrant. The cargo bay door opened. A merchant Kevin knew walked in. His name was Torres. Human like Kevin, but the kind of human who'd forgotten what that was supposed to mean. Torres looked around the organized bay and whistled. Walsh, your operation actually looks professional now. What happened? Good help, Kevin said, gesturing to Lyra. Torres noticed her for the first time. His expression changed. You hired a Venlari? For actual work. She's my logistics coordinator. Coordinator? Torres laughed. Come on, Kevin. She's a charity case. Everyone knows Venlari are. Careful, Kevin said quietly. That's my employee you're talking about. Torres held up his hands. Hey, no offense. I'm just saying you could get the same work from a basic AI for half the cost. You're wasting credits on sentiment. She saves me more than she cost. That's called good business. Lyra had gone very still. She stood by the workstation, eyes down, trying to be invisible. Kevin recognized that posture. She'd done it a lot in the first week. Trying not to be noticed. Trying not to be a problem. He hated seeing her do it now. Torres shook his head. Your funeral? Anyway, I'm here about the Cantari shipment next week. You still have space. Depends what you're shipping. Standard cargo. Electronics mostly. I'll pay double your usual rate. Kevin's eyebrows went up. Double rate was serious money. What's the catch? No catch. Just need discreet transport. The Cantari are particular about their suppliers. Particular how? Torres glanced at Lyra, then back to Kevin. They don't like mixing cargo with certain species. You know how it is. Politics. Kevin felt something cold settle in his stomach. You mean they won't ship if they know a Venlari touched the cargo? It's not personal. It's just business. So maybe your girl there could take a few days off? I'll make it worth your while. Triple rate. The cargo bay went very quiet. Lyra wasn't looking at either of them now. She stared at her tablet like it was the most interesting thing in the universe. Kevin looked at Torres. Really looked at him. Saw what he'd become after too many years in a galaxy that rewarded cruelty and punished kindness. No, Kevin said. No? Kevin, that's 1,500 credits for one shipment. I said no. Torres blinked. Are you serious? You're turning down 1,500 credits because of her? I'm turning it down because I don't work with bigots. And I don't hide my employees like there's something shameful. This is insane. She's just a Venlari. She's my logistics coordinator. And she's a person. Now get out of my bay. Torres stared at him like he'd grown a second head. You know what? Fine. Waste your credits on alien charity. See where it gets you. He left, slamming the door behind him. Kevin took a breath. Let it out slowly. 1,500 credits would have solved a lot of problems. His accountant AI was probably having a breakdown somewhere in its processing core. He looked at Lyra. She was crying. Silent tears down her blue cheeks, just like that first day at the medical center. I'm sorry, she whispered. I cost you money. I cost you contract. I should leave. Find work elsewhere. You can't afford to keep me if I lose you business. Kevin walked over to her. Lyra, look at me. She raised her eyes. They were full of pain and shame. You didn't cost me anything, Kevin said. Torres cost himself my business by being a bigot. That's on him, not you. But 1,500 credits isn't worth my principles. Money comes and goes. But once you compromise on what you believe in, you don't get that back. I don't understand. In Galaxy, money is everything. Survival is everything. You sacrifice for that. Not the things that matter. Not dignity. Not respect. Not the basic idea that every person deserves to be treated like a person. Lyra shook her head. Fresh tears fell. You're going to go broke being kind to me. Or I'm going to build a reputation as someone who treats people fairly, and that'll bring me better clients. Clients who aren't garbage. You have too much faith in the universe. Maybe. But I have faith in doing the right thing. That's enough. Lyra wiped her eyes. She looked at Kevin for a long moment. Something was changing in her expression. The fear was still there, but something else was growing alongside it. Something that looked like determination. The Cantari shipment, she said slowly. The electronics Torres mentioned. I know that market. Yeah. They're overpriced. Cantari electronics used to be top quality, but their manufacturing dropped off 5 years ago. Now they charge premium prices for mid-grade products. She pulled up data on her tablet. You can get better electronics from Tellus colonies for 40% less. Better profit margin. Kevin looked at the numbers. She was right again. If Torres is paying triple rate for transport, Lyra continued, that means he's making huge markup on the other end. He's probably selling to someone who doesn't know Cantari quality dropped. Someone he's cheating. Can we reach his buyer first? Lyra's fingers flew across her tablet. Maybe. Give me an hour. I can track shipping manifests, cross-reference buyers, find out who's in market for electronics. Kevin smiled. Do it. An hour later, Lyra had a name. A mining colony on the edge of the sector, run by a cooperative of smaller species. They needed electronics for expansion and had a big budget. Kevin contacted them directly. Offered Tellus electronics at competitive prices. Better quality than Cantari, lower cost than Torres would charge. The mining colony jumped at the deal. 2 days later, Kevin had a contract worth 2,000 credits. 500 more than Torres had offered, and the buyer got better products for less money. Torres found out about it. He showed up at the cargo bay furious. You stole my client. I offered them a better deal, Kevin said calmly. That's called competition. That Vinlari fed you my business intelligence. Lyra did market research. Everything she found was public information. Not her fault you didn't do your homework. Torres pointed at Lyra. This isn't over. You made an enemy today, Walsh. After he left, Lyra looked worried. I caused trouble. Made you enemy. You made me 2,000 credits. Torres made himself my enemy by being an idiot. Lyra almost smiled. Still. He'll try to hurt your business now. Let him try. We'll compete fair and square. And we'll win because we're better at this than he is. Kevin gestured at the organized cargo bay. You think he has a logistics coordinator as good as you? No, Lyra said quietly. Then louder, no he doesn't. Damn right. Now what else can we improve around here? Lyra pulled up her tablet. Actually, I have ideas about your route planning. You're taking long way to 3 regular destinations. If we adjust timing and consolidate runs, we save fuel and time. Show me. She did. Her suggestions would save them another 100 credits per month. Implement it, Kevin said. Lyra nodded. Then she said something she'd never said before. I have another idea too. About expanding client base. I'm listening. There's community of Vinlari workers on lower decks. They're skilled but work for almost nothing because they're desperate. If we offer them fair contracts for piecework, loading, unloading, specialized handling, we get quality work for competitive prices. They get better wages. Everyone wins. Kevin thought about it. You trust them? I trust desperate people to work hard when given fair chance. Same as you trusted me. Kevin looked at his employee. Not the starving, terrified woman he'd found begging at the docks. The confident professional standing in front of him now. Do it, he said. Hire whoever you need. Lyra's smile was bright and real. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. None of this works without you. The delegation arrived on a Tuesday morning. 7 Vinlari, all thin and worn like Lyra had been 2 months ago. They stood outside Kevin's cargo bay, hesitant to enter. Lyra saw them through the window. Her hands froze on her tablet. Kevin, she said quietly. We have visitors. Kevin looked up from his desk. Through the window he could see the group of blue-skinned aliens. They looked terrified and hopeful at the same time. It was a combination he'd learned to recognize. Friends of yours? He asked. I don't know them. But they're Vinlari. Lyra's voice was tight. Word must have spread. Word about what? About me. About this. She gestured at the organized cargo bay at her workstation, at the life she'd built here. Vinlari talk. We share information about where to find work, where it's safe, where it's not. Someone must have told them about the human merchant who pays fair wages. Kevin stood up. Do you want to talk to them? Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. Yes. But I'm scared. Of what? Of giving them hope that might be false. Of promising something you can't deliver. Of making this your problem when it should be mine. Let's hear what they want first. Then we'll figure it out together. Lyra opened the cargo bay door. The 7 Vinlari came inside slowly, like they expected to be chased away at any moment. The oldest one spoke. She was female, with silver streaks in the bark patterns on her skin. You are Lyra of the Western Valleys? I am. We heard stories. Stories that seemed impossible. A human who pays 15 credits per day. Who gives private quarters. Who treats Vinlari like equals. The stories are true, Lyra said. The old woman's eyes filled with tears. Then please. We beg you. Help us. We have skills. We can work. We just need chance. Fair chance. Kevin stepped forward. What kind of skills? The old woman turned to him. She immediately lowered her eyes in submission. Kevin hated that gesture. He'd seen Lyra do it 100 times in those first weeks. I am Nessa, she said to the floor. I was engineer on Colony ship. Before the sun died. I can repair most systems. Design new ones if given time. She gestured to the others. They each spoke in turn, still not meeting Kevin's eyes. I am Gareth. I was teacher. I speak 8 languages and can translate documents. I am Mira. I did medical support. Basic care, not full doctor, but I know wounds and sickness. I am Tobin. I loaded cargo on freighters. I'm strong. I can lift heavy things. They went through the list. Each one had skills. Real skills. The kind that should have guaranteed them good work anywhere in the galaxy. But they were Vinlari. So instead they lived on the lower decks, working for scraps, sleeping in shared rooms with 20 others, slowly starving. Why come to me? Kevin asked. There are hundreds of merchants on this station. Nessa finally looked up. Because others treat us like trash. Like we should be grateful for any crumbs they throw. But we heard you're different. Human different. Human different how? Fair. The word is that you're fair. Kevin looked at Lyra. She was watching the group with an expression he couldn't quite read. Pain and recognition and something else. Responsibility maybe. Lyra, Kevin said. This is your call. They're your people. What do you think? The 7 Vinlari looked at Lyra with desperate hope. Lyra looked at Kevin. I think we can help, she said slowly. But not as charity. As business. Kevin smiled. Go on. Lyra turned to the group. Kevin needs workers sometimes. Loading, unloading, special projects. Right now he hires day workers from the general labor pool. They're unreliable and often unskilled. She pulled up her tablet. If we organize Vinlari workers into reliable teams, we offer Kevin something valuable. Skilled labor he can count on. In exchange he pays fair wages. Not charity. Not favors. Fair payment for good work. Nessa's eyes widened. You want us to negotiate? As equals. Yes, Lyra said firmly. No begging. No accepting scraps. You have skills. You offer those skills at fair prices. That's how business works. But we're Vinlari, Gareth said. No one negotiates with us. They tell us terms and we accept or starve. Kevin spoke up. That stops now. Here's how this works. Lyra will coordinate with you. When I have work, she contacts your team. You do the job. I pay standard station rates. Same as I'd pay anyone else. Standard rates. Tobin looked confused. That's more than we've ever made. Then you've been exploited. That ends today. Mira shook her head. Why would you do this? You could pay us less. We'd accept it. Everyone knows Vinlari accept anything. Because I'm not everyone, Kevin said. And because Lyra taught me something. When you treat people fairly, they work better. They're more reliable. They care about quality. Fair treatment isn't charity. It's good business. Nessa looked at Lyra. You really did it? You found a human who sees us as people. I found a human who sees everyone as people, Lyra corrected. That's the difference. Over the next week, Lyra organized the Vinlari workers into a cooperative. She assigned roles based on skills. Nessa supervised technical work. Gareth handled communication and translation. Mira provided basic medical support for the workers. Tobin led the loading crews. They did their first job for Kevin 3 days later. A complex cargo transfer that required careful handling and precise timing. The kind of job that usually took 12 hours and involved multiple mistakes. The Vinlari team finished it in 8 hours with 0 errors. Kevin paid them each their full day's wage plus a bonus for early completion. The workers stared at the credits in their accounts like they couldn't believe the numbers were real. Word spread fast. Other Vinlari on the lower decks heard about the fair pay and safe working conditions. More came asking for positions. Lyra interviewed them all, building a roster of skilled workers. Then something unexpected happened. A human merchant named Patricia came to Kevin's cargo bay. She ran a mid-sized shipping operation, bigger than Kevin's but not huge. I heard about your Vinlari workers, she said. Are they really as good as people say? Better, Kevin said. Why? Because I need reliable people. I'm tired of dealing with workers who don't show up or do sloppy work. If your Vinlari are professional, I want to hire some. Kevin called Lyra over. Patricia needs workers. Can your cooperative handle it? Lyra looked at Patricia carefully. What are you offering? Standard station rates. Same as Kevin pays. What about working conditions? Patricia raised an eyebrow. Safe conditions, reasonable hours, respect for the workers. I run a professional operation. Lyra nodded slowly. I'll send you a team for a trial run. One job. If you treat them fairly and pay on time, we can discuss ongoing contract. Deal. The trial job went perfectly. Patricia hired 3 Vinlari for regular work. Then another human merchant came asking. Then another. Within 3 weeks, the Vinlari cooperative had contracts with 5 different human merchants. All paying fair wages. All treating the workers with respect. Kevin watched it happen with growing satisfaction. His cargo bay had become the unofficial headquarters of a growing movement. Lyra spent half her time managing the cooperative now, coordinating jobs and negotiating contracts. You created something important, Kevin told her one evening. This is bigger than just my business now. I couldn't have done it without you showing me it was possible, Lyra said. You did the hard part. You convinced your people to stop accepting exploitation, to demand fair treatment. Lyra smiled. You convinced me first. That was the hardest part. Not everyone was happy about the changes. Torres and some other merchants complained loudly about human bleeding hearts and destroying the labor market. But they couldn't argue with results. The Venlari workers were skilled, reliable, and professional. They did quality work for fair prices. The human merchants who hired them saw improved efficiency and fewer problems. The Venlari themselves changed too. They stood straighter, spoke louder, stopped apologizing for existing. They remembered what it felt like to have dignity. One evening, Nessa came to the cargo bay to deliver a report. She found Kevin and Lyra reviewing schedules. I wanted to thank you both, Nessa said. Not just for work, for reminding us that we're people. We'd almost forgotten. Lyra stood up and embraced the older woman. We remembered together. After Nessa left, Kevin looked at Lyra. You know what this means, right? What? You're not just my logistics coordinator anymore. You're running a whole organization. The cooperative needs you full-time. Lyra looked alarmed. Are you firing me? No. I'm promoting you. Partner in the business. Equal shares. You run the cooperative and handle logistics. I manage cargo and client relations. We split profits 50-50. Lyra stared at him. Partner? Equal partner? You've earned it. Actually, you've earned it 10 times over. Kevin, I was begging in the streets 2 months ago. Now you want to make me your partner? 2 months ago, you were a skilled professional who'd been dealt a bad hand. Now you're a skilled professional with opportunities. That's all that changed. Lyra sat down slowly. She looked at her hands. The bark patterns on her blue skin seemed to shimmer in the cargo bay lights. You really see me as equal, she said softly. Not as project. Not as charity case. As equal. Always have. That's the most human thing about you. You look at people and see what they could be, not just what they are. Kevin shrugged. Doesn't seem that special to me. Just seems obvious. To humans, maybe. To rest of galaxy? Lyra shook her head. It's revolutionary. 6 months after that first desperate meeting, Lyra stood in front of the Galactic Labor Council and tried not to be nervous. The council chamber was huge, with seats arranged in a circle around the speaker's platform. Representatives from 40 different species watched her with various degrees of interest and skepticism. Kevin sat in the observer section, giving her an encouraging nod. She took a breath and began. My name is Lyra of the Western Valleys. 6 months ago, I was starving on the docks of Talon Station, begging for work. Today, I'm a partner in a successful trading company and coordinator of a worker cooperative that employs over 200 Venlari across 5 stations. A counselor with too many eyes leaned forward. Yes, we've heard about your unusual arrangement. That's why you're here. The council has questions about these human labor practices. I'll answer what I can, Lyra said. Another counselor spoke. This one was reptilian with scales that shifted colors. You claim human merchants pay significantly above market rates for Venlari labor. This distorts the labor market and creates unfair competition. We pay standard station rates, Lyra corrected. The same rates paid to any worker. What you call above market is actually just fair payment for skilled work. But Venlari traditionally work for much less. Venlari traditionally had no choice. There's a difference between market rate and exploitation rate. The first counselor's eyes narrowed. You accuse the council of permitting exploitation? I accuse the galaxy of creating a system where desperate species are forced to accept degrading conditions to survive. The council simply never questioned that system. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Kevin smiled from his seat. Lyra had learned to speak up. She'd learned to speak clearly and without apology. A third counselor spoke. She was tall and thin, from a species Lyra didn't recognize. Explain these human concepts you mentioned in your written testimony. Dignity and mutual benefit. Humans believe every person has inherent value, Lyra said. Not because of what they can produce. Not because of their species or status. Just because they exist. This value can't be taken away, even by desperate circumstances. Philosophy is pleasant, the reptilian counselor said. But business requires practical thinking. This is practical thinking, Lyra replied. When you treat workers fairly, they work better. They're more reliable, more skilled, more invested in quality. Fair treatment creates better business outcomes. You have proof of this? Lyra pulled up data on her tablet. The council's main display showed her numbers. In 6 months, The Venlari Cooperative has maintained a 98% reliability rate. 0 safety incidents. Client satisfaction scores average 9.4 out of 10. Our workers complete jobs an average of 15% faster than standard labor pools with half the error rate. The numbers were impressive. Even the skeptical counselors had to acknowledge that. These results come from proper training and fair compensation, Lyra continued. Workers who aren't desperate make better decisions. Workers who are treated with respect take pride in their work. It's not complicated. But expensive, someone muttered. More expensive than dealing with mistakes, delays, and safety incidents? More expensive than constant worker turnover. Lyra shook her head. The math says fair treatment costs less in the long run. The tall counselor looked interested now. And other species are adopting these practices? 7 other struggling species have contacted us, Lyra confirmed. They've seen what happened with the Venlari Cooperative. They want to build similar organizations. Several human merchants have agreed to help them. This troubles the council, the reptilian said. Humans are changing established labor dynamics throughout this sector. Humans are offering an alternative to exploitation, Lyra corrected. Species can still choose to work under old conditions if they want. But now they have options they didn't have before. Options that make traditional merchants look bad, the first counselor said. Then maybe traditional merchants should improve their practices. The chamber went quiet. Lyra had just said what everyone was thinking, but no one wanted to speak aloud. Finally, the tall counselor spoke. The council will consider this information. You may go. Lyra left the platform. Kevin met her at the exit. You did great, he said. I told them the truth. Whether they accept it is their choice. They walked back through the station together. The Venlari Cooperative's main office was on Deck 8 now, a real space with desks and equipment and a waiting room. Lyra had come a long way from begging on the docks. Inside the office, 3 new refugees were waiting. They looked exactly like Lyra had 6 months ago. Thin, scared, desperate. Lyra sat down across from them. Kevin stayed to watch. Thank you for seeing us, the first refugee said. She was young, barely an adult. We heard you help Venlari find work. I coordinate a worker cooperative, Lyra said. We offer skilled labor at fair rates. If you have skills to offer, we can help you find employment. We'll work for anything, the young woman said quickly. Just food and shelter. We don't need payment. Lyra held up her hand. Stop. First lesson, you don't work for free. You have value. Your labor has value. You get paid for that value. The 3 refugees looked confused. Lyra recognized that confusion. She'd felt it too, sitting in Kevin's quarters that first day. I know what you're thinking, Lyra said. You think you have no choice. You think you should be grateful for any opportunity no matter how bad. You think being Venlari means accepting whatever scraps the galaxy throws at you. The young woman nodded slowly. That's wrong, Lyra said firmly. You deserve fair treatment. Fair wages. Safe working conditions. Respect. These aren't luxuries. They're basic rights. But we're refugees, one of the others said. We have nothing to bargain with. You have your skills. Your willingness to work. Your reliability. Lyra pulled up a form on her tablet. Tell me what you can do. What you're good at. They went through the list. One was good with numbers. One knew basic engineering. The young woman had experience in food service. Lyra made notes. Okay, here's what happens next. You join the cooperative. We provide housing and shared quarters until you can afford private space. We provide food and basic medical care. You get training in professional standards and safety procedures. And then we work for free to pay you back? The engineer asked. No. Then you work for standard wages. 15 credits per day, same as everyone else. You pay a small percentage to the cooperative for overhead costs, but most of the money is yours. The 3 refugees stared at her. This is trick, the young woman whispered. Has to be trick. It's not a trick. It's how humans do business. Fair exchange. Mutual benefit. You work, you get paid. Simple. Why would anyone do this? The engineer asked. Why would humans help us? Lyra thought about how to answer that. She thought about Kevin taking her to the medical center that first day. About him offering her a real job with real wages. About him turning down profitable contracts because they involved exploitation. Because humans remember being desperate, Lyra said. Their history is full of disasters and recoveries. They learned that when you help others up, everyone benefits. They learned that dignity isn't something you earn. It's something you have just by being alive. She looked at each of the refugees in turn. But here's the hardest lesson. The one I struggled with most. You have to believe you deserve better. You have to believe you have value. If you don't believe it, no one else will either. The young woman's eyes filled with tears. How do we believe that? After everything that happened to our world, after all the rejection, how do we believe we matter? You practice, Lyra said. Every day you practice standing straight, speaking clearly, offering your skills as valuable services instead of begging for scraps. Feels wrong at first. Feels like lying. But eventually you realize it's not lying. It's truth you'd forgotten. Kevin spoke up from his position by the wall. Lyra didn't believe it either when we started. She thought I was running some kind of scam. Thought any moment I'd reveal the real cost. What changed? The engineer asked. He kept treating me like a person, Lyra said simply. Day after day. When I made mistakes, he helped me fix them. When I succeeded, he celebrated. When other people treated me like garbage, he defended me. Eventually, I started to believe what he'd been saying all along. That I had value. That I deserved respect. She stood up. That's what we offer here. Not just jobs. Not just fair wages. We offer you a chance to remember your people. To remember you deserve dignity. The rest follows from that. The three refugees looked at each other. Slowly the young woman nodded. We want to join. Good, Lyra said. Welcome to the cooperative. First rule, stop apologizing for existing. Second rule, stand straight. Third rule, never accept exploitation from anyone for any reason. She handed them information packets. Housing assignments are in there. Training starts tomorrow. Questions? Just one, the young woman said. Will we really get paid? Full wages. You'll really get paid. I guarantee it. After the new refugees left, Kevin walked over to Lyra. You're good at this. Teaching them what you learned. Someone taught me first. Seemed wrong not to pass it on. Your whole species is changing because of what started here. You know that, right? Lyra looked around the office. 6 months ago this didn't exist. 6 months ago, she was one desperate woman with no hope and no future. Now she was part of something bigger. Something that was spreading across the galaxy. The idea that everyone deserved dignity. That fair treatment wasn't charity, it was basic decency. It's not just Venlari changing, Lyra said. Other species are watching. Learning. Building their own cooperatives. Some human merchants are adopting these practices for all their workers, not just refugees. Revolution by example, Kevin said. My favorite kind. The council won't like it. Don't care. They can adapt or get left behind. Lyra smiled. That was very human thinking. Practical, stubborn, focused on what was right rather than what was easy. Thank you, she said quietly. For seeing me as a person when no one else did. For teaching me I was worth more than I believed. You taught yourself. I just provided the opportunity. No. You provided the example. You showed me what fair treatment looked like. What dignity felt like. That was the gift. Kevin shrugged, uncomfortable with serious gratitude like always. Well, you've paid it back about 1,000 times over. Best business decision I ever made. Lyra looked out the office window at the busy station corridor. Somewhere out there, more desperate people were struggling. More species were being exploited. More individuals had forgotten their own worth. But now there was an alternative. Better way. And it was spreading. You know what humans taught me? Lyra said. That one person treating another person with basic decency can change everything. Seems simple. But it's the most powerful thing in the galaxy. Kevin nodded. Simple things usually are.